I got to get to Lebanon because I have to be honest with you, Lebanon always mystifies me. And so I always require somewhat of a good breakdown to explain um, what is happening. So after, let's say, the attacks by Israel against the Lebanese, specifically Beirut, going after Hezbollah in some cases, but really just killing civilians, it seemed to be a scale down of Hezbollah's activities. And what you ended up with is Israel, apparently after a quote unquote deal, using the deal as a tool by which to bomb Lebanon whenever it wants to bomb Lebanon. And the bombings that have been taking place over the last several weeks have been effectively unanswered to by the government itself, and even on some level by Hezbollah itself. They are trying to get Hezbollah to disarm, apparently, and Hezbollah is effectively saying F off, that they're not doing that. Explain to us what is happening in Lebanon, because the government always blows my mind because it never fires a shot in anger. So you have Israel invading Lebanon, occupying Lebanese territory, and the government just effectively standing by, doing nothing about it. Give me your take on this. What is going on in Lebanon, especially with the bombings that Israel has been doing over the last several weeks?
Yeah, so there was a kind of a deal sent by Trump to the Lebanese government, demanding basically the disarmament, complete disarmament of Hezbollah in return for a peace agreement with the Zionist colony. And since then, they've been, ratcheting up all the propaganda of scare tactics against the Lebanese populace. So it started with those media supposed leaks in Western media about HTS, Al-Julani meeting with Israelis and supposedly gonna create a peace deal where Israel gives back 1/3 of the Golan Heights and HTS gets to occupy North Lebanon, Tripoli, the second largest city in the country, and the Beqa Valley, which is the food basket of the country. Uh, and, so this was then coupled with a visit today by, last night there was wide bombardment in Lebanon, except in Beirut. So in the south, in the Beqa Valley, there was something like 30 somewhat raids and attacks on Yemen, as we saw, on the port cities on the Red Sea. So then we had the arrival of Trump's envoy, whose name is Barak. His last name, I don't remember his first name. Barak sounds to me like an Israeli name, honestly. That's the only Baraks that I usually know. But the guy in his press conference was basically speaking to the Lebanese people, telling them Lebanon first, and you got to follow the wave of the change that's happening in the region and get on it, or you're going to lose out on the. So it's clear that they are trying to disarm Hezbollah. And yesterday, during those Israeli attacks, was Ashura. By the way, Ashura is the last day for mourning Hussein, the grandson of Muhammad, being assassinated. And so in the morning, during the day, the new Secretary General of Hezbollah, Naim Al-Qasim, gave a speech. And in it, it was very clear there will be no disarmament of Hezbollah, period. And that they are getting ready, preparing themselves basically for the coming war, which is clearly was going to be an attack by the Wahhabi death squads combined by an attack with the Zionists. And in fact, these threats to have this attack have finally revealed how correct Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, martyr Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, to have taken the decision to get involved in the war in Syria to stop the spread of these Wahhabi death squads, HTS, Al Qaeda, ISIS. And as was said then by Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, that if we don't fight them in Syria, they will be coming to us in Lebanon to fight us. And that's exactly what we see coming in the horizon. And so Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah has been, what do you call it, the word when you...
Proven correct.
Proven correct from his
Prescient.
grave. Yes. Yeah. And the populace itself here in Lebanon, no matter what their religious background, hearing those threats, whether they're Christian or Sunni or Druze or Shia, everybody's getting armed. Okay, it's not going to be actually those threats by the United States are bringing the country together, and if the United States tries to get an HTS invasion combined by an Israeli attack, I don't think Lebanon will fall. In fact, I think maybe it will lead to the liberation of Damascus. Those HTS cowards, whenever they were faced by Hezbollah, they got minced inside the battlefield in Syria. And that was territory that Hezbollah had doesn't know the full details of, that they were fighting. Come to the home turf of Hezbollah, and you will see the slaughter of those Wahhabi death squads, and Syria will be ready for the picking again.
Is it fair to say that Lebanon has already fallen? Is that too far? And let me explain why I asked that. I asked that only because it seems Hezbollah is a resistance group in Lebanon, but it's not the Lebanese military. And the Lebanese military doesn't really attack Israel, even though Israel is occupying and bombing Lebanon almost daily. So, I mean, is that too far? Give me your thoughts on that first before we step into it.
Well, I think I was very clear for a decade of interviews that there's no such thing as Lebanon as a government and or an army. Okay, Lebanon exists just in the ether. Okay,
I see.
Here, literally, you can drive in any direction you want to on any street. Okay, you can park anywhere you want to, park on a sidewalk, park double park, do whatever you want to. Okay, this is also a territory that the West wanted to create into a vassal sovereign that can, buffer any resistance to the Zionist colony, and haven't been able to. So it's a contested space between that the empire has yet to capture, but it's also not a liberated space, right? So it's a contested space. So this is why actually somebody with a small party can have ramifications that are global, or a TV station from Beirut broadcasting has a reach that no other TV station in the Arabic world would, because of how it's a free zone for anyone. Yes, there is thousands of American soldiers hiding in the fortress on top of the place, but there is tens of thousands of Hezbollah in the streets. Okay, so there is no such thing as Lebanon as a state. There's no Lebanese army ever. There hasn't been since 1948.
Yeah.
Or 42, right? So it's yeah. So is it? But did it fall? Is it fallen? No, it's not. The resistance in Lebanon will not allow it to fall. Is it going to be a harder fight than before? Of course, it's going to be a different fight also. But remember, the Zionists by themselves in the south of Lebanon were unable to occupy for 66 days until the ceasefire was called. And which brings us, by the way, to this press conference of Trump's envoy, Barak. when asked about the ceasefire by a journalist, and where the Israelis' violations and why is the U.S. as the guarantor not stopping Israel from?
Guarantee it. Yeah.
And you know what he said? He says, "We are not the guarantor, and there is no guarantor for this."
At least he's
Supposedly.
honest.
Yeah.
At least he's honest.
Yes. It's just like we don't get any calls about this.
Yeah. Yeah. At least he's
So
honest.
it's actually good right now because, again, all of this, Hezbollah letting basically, you're lending them the rope to hang themselves. Every time before Hezbollah or Axis of Resistance takes a offensive action, they have to, because of the power of the propaganda machine that we're all enveloped inside in this world, because of its mass power, you have to show the populace the deceit. Let the enemy get to a point where they have to show their own deceit to the rest of the world, and then your populace is ready fully. They're like, okay, now you gave them the rope and they hung themselves with it, and then now we can attack. So Hezbollah, when they come to the defense now of their own nation, if anything happens, the whole nation will be behind.
What do you think is going to happen with this? I mean, if you had to predict or give a prognostication of going forward, I mean, it seems that the U.S. is trying to force almost a civil war of sorts. I mean, even though it doesn't want the Lebanese military to attack Israel, it seems perfectly okay with them going after Hezbollah to try to disarm Hezbollah. I would imagine Hezbollah is not going to accept that. In which case, with military fire on Hezbollah, give me a breakdown of this. What do you think happens here?
The Americans know that they cannot depend on the Lebanese military, period. The Lebanese military, the majority of soldiers and officers in it are Shia. We're talking about over 50%. They're not the top generals because they're not allowed to take those positions. But you could imagine an officer ordering his soldiers to go attack Hezbollah. What's going to happen, right? And the Lebanese military has only small and medium weapons. Doesn't have tanks even. It has APCs, right?
Yeah.
So it cannot fight Hezbollah. So this is why the idea has always been to bring those Wahhabi death squads into the country. And we saw over the last week and a half multiple groups being arrested by Hezbollah's intelligence, handed over to the Lebanese intelligence of Wahhabi death squads, preparing for attacks. There was supposed to be an attack in the Ashura processions yesterday that was foiled 4 or 5 days before. And so this is the only path forward for the Americans is these death squads, the Wahhabi death squads, invading Lebanon, creating chaos through terrorist actions, and coupled with Israeli air cover for them. As happened in the beginning after the fall of Damascus, there was HTS attacks on the Lebanese villages in the north that I went and covered. People can watch that video. And the Israeli Air Force went all the way to the north of Lebanon and bombarded the local tribes and clans, their positions that were stopping the HTS from entering Lebanon. And by the way, the Lebanese military at that point of multiple attacks on multiple villages in the north withdrew and disappeared. Okay,
wow,
this is
wow.
6 months ago, right? And the local tribes and clans managed to destroy the columns of HTS, 40 somewhat tanks destroyed, and went into Syria and liberated the Shia villages that were being slaughtered inside Syria. And that's when the Israelis arrived with their air force, hitting the high ground positions that the tribes had, So they had to withdraw back into the Lebanese territory to protect their behind, basically, right? So that was an experiment staging for what they wanted, and they couldn't achieve it. They had the high and the whole West behind them. At that moment, they could have entered Lebanon if Hezbollah and the tribes, local tribes, were not ready and armed, and nobody would have stopped them if they entered Beirut, by the way.
No.
The West would have been celebrating as they're raping and pillaging in Hamra Street. And they would have come and shake hands with him and called him the new Khalif. The West would have called Al-Julani the new Khalif if you would have taken Beirut also. And they would be fine with it.
I remember when this happened. So yeah, I remember when this took place. And unfortunately, the U.S., with Jelani in power, now has a death squad factory that they can use in any parts of Africa, or in this case, in the case of Lebanon. So you expect that the death squads will attack because, for all intents and purposes, they can't necessarily trust the Lebanese military to disarm Hezbollah, nor could they disarm Hezbollah. They don't have the capability of doing so. So their thought is we would just have an attack on Lebanon itself, with Israel backing us in that attack on Lebanon. And I think from your point of view, that would give. I'm curious on something for propaganda. You pointed out that there's propaganda even internal to Lebanon, but they certainly know it's Israel that's been attacking them, correct? Or don't they know that? Or aren't they? That's a weird question. They're clearly aware that Israel is occupying and attacking Lebanon. They're clearly aware that Israel is violating any notion of the ceasefire. Do they blame Hezbollah for those attacks?
I think the vast majority of Lebanese don't. Okay. And this is why it's been successful. I think the silence of Hezbollah since the ceasefire, and I mean like in terms of military silence, not responding, has exposed anyone, specifically in the useless government. People ask, why did Hezbollah allow this president to be appointed or prime minister to be appointed? Because they don't have any power. It doesn't matter. If that allows the show to go on while Hezbollah is arming and preparing herself and preparing itself for the next fight, who gives a damn about the Lebanese government? All its power is to fart and target refugees here and there, because it doesn't. It's not a country, and what matters in Lebanon is force. Okay. So, and anyone can say whatever they want to. What matters is what can you do on the street. And so I think this is important to understand. And therefore, when the Lebanese government or prime minister or foreign affairs minister or president say something stupid and or critical of Hezbollah or calling for disarmament, who gives a damn? If I'm Hezbollah, I don't give a damn, and let him yap. That will allow anyways the Americans to try to keep on plotting and talking and trying to play a propaganda war and a power over something that is non-existent. There's no such thing as the Lebanese government. So who gives a damn? Who thinks they are the president?
I'm curious from your point on something else. So your expectation is there will be an attack on Lebanon, and that for all intents and purposes, the public and Hezbollah. I guess a better way to ask this is Hezbollah has been recobbling its strength over these last several months. I think it's been 6-7 months at this point, and that the resistance hasn't died out. They've just been in a kind of rebuilding phase.
Yeah, they had to look what the Israelis and the Americans did between 2006 and the 2023 is that they basically gathered all the information of the Lebanese publics. Okay, so all their databases, all the communications, and you draw a tree or connections of everything, And by the time the war started, everybody is known who's in what position in Hezbollah, who's their brother, who's their sister, who's their mother, who's their wife,
Right.
right? Where's his wife's sister, so forth, whatever it is. So this was how the assassinations happened. It's not like a something that's hard to do. 15 years of information gathering, okay, drawing up. So what Hezbollah had to do since the war is basically you can't anymore just move a military leader to a safe house. Uh, you know that whatever safe houses he's gone to for 15 years are already not safe, and even if you move him and his wife and children, hide them, well, his wife is eventually going to visit her sister, right, and her mother, right. So what they have had to do is remove people from positions completely, build a new hierarchy of unknown names, and return to the full resistance structures instead of military structures that Hezbollah moved to
I see.
when it engaged in the Syria war and was transformed from a militia to a semi-army. Now they have to go back to a militia, not a semi-army. Therefore, everything has to be now. Nobody cannot know, not everybody in the neighborhood should know the guy's cousin is that person. You understand?
I
So
see. They had to restructure.
restructure everything with unknown names. And this is why we see still currently assassinations happening in Lebanon. It's clear that Hezbollah has retired anyone that was already known their position in the structures. And this is why they're getting assassinated on their scooters as they're driving through the village. Okay. This is what's happening. They know now that they are martyrs. These people, they're exposed, and there's nothing you can do to hide them, and they have to go back to normal life. And now there's a whole secret structure that's been built.
Jesus. Wow. One last thing before I let you go. The Abraham quote unquote shield. Donald Trump is acting as if he's going to be able to bring in additional, I guess, countries to this. I assume he means Lebanon, and I assume he means Syria, Al Jalani. Going to this, I mean, this is a grotesque. It should be humiliating, especially for these Arab states like Saudi Arabia, where they are continuing with the genocide while seemingly working with the Trump administration with these deals and arrangements. Give me your take on this. I mean, how far do you think this is going to go? And it seems like part of this, or the point of this, is to isolate Iran and some kind of financial, I don't know, isolation. I mean, but this is kind of weird since Saudi Arabia supposedly has some kind of rapprochement with Iran. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, do you think this is going to go forward? Do you think this is even going to be successful?
Well, it's already in effect. Basically, all these countries, including Saudi, provided a shield to the Zionists with their air defenses and air force. If Al Julani had some air defenses that the Israelis didn't destroy for him, he would have also shot them down on behalf
Yeah.
of Israel, right? So
He said as much, if I'm not mistaken. I thought he said as much.
yeah, so it's already in effect. That's the whole point of putting all these vassals and fighting the Syrian unificationists and the Arab unificationists for 80 years. Okay, is to create this buffer for the Zionist colony. And now, is it going to happen? Can they succeed? I mean, we let them actually better. It's better if Al-Julani gets more and more open about his subservience to the Zionists. I want to say that what the final goal of the Zionists and the Americans is not only this Abraham Accord and the Abraham Shield. the experiment that they've been running for more than 100 years is to try to capture Islam and change it into a new religion, as happened with Christianity and the King James Bible, right?
Uh-huh.
Creating a joint uh, Torah and Bible into one, and creating this fabrication of identity of Judeo-Christian, right? And what they want to do is capture Islam and make this a new kind of like King James Quran,
Judeo-Islam, is that what you're
which
saying?
will bring in the Torah and the Bible into it, like how the Emiratis built those three houses of worship into a triangle together beside each other. They want to do that. What they want is for the Muslims to abandon Islam and accept this new Abrahamic religion. Okay, the Anglo-Christians were fooled into it. They achieved that with Protestantism and so forth, and schism away from Catholicism and Orthodoxy. And they're trying to do the same with this Abrahamic religion to try to defeat the Muslim resistance to control by the West.
But to be fair, though, this is just leadership. Like, there's a difference in leadership versus the public. I don't get the sense that the Saudis, let's say, population, I don't get the sense that the populations of Egypt are okay with what their leadership is doing in regards to their obsequience or their weakness in the face of what their leadership is doing. I don't get the sense that they agree with this at all.
They don't, but that doesn't mean that the West doesn't have dreams to do so. I mean, they were successful in molding a new Jew, right? You have to give it to them. The Jewish people prior to World War I, vast majority were anti-Zionist. Sorry, prior to World War II, anti-Zionist, and what do you call it? People, they want to belong to the countries that they were in.
Right.
And today, you're talking about 80% Zionist, okay, in the Jewish population, if not more, right? And especially inside the Zionist colony. So the West managed to mold a new Jew, and that Jew accepts himself as supreme. Now, what they want is that the Muslims to say in front of themselves as Muslims, we are less than Jews, and Jews are the chosen people. That's what Zionism means. A Muslim accepting Zionism is saying that he is less human than a Zionist, that the Jews are chosen people. That's what it means for a Muslim to accept Zionism. And that cannot happen without bastardizing Islam and the Quran itself.
But see, with the new Jew, as you put it, that had more to do with self-interest, though. Like, we're taking land, we're occupying territory, we're getting money from the US to make our own space. And after you spend years bathing in the Holocaust, bathing in victimization, then you create this kind of mangled new thing that the people are willing to accept. There is no vested interest for Muslims to do that in a way that the Israelis, or let's say the Jews, were able to accept. Does it make sense? Like, there was a huge amount of self-interest built into them accepting this kind of new Jew, whereas there is no self-interest in Muslims accepting this notion of Jewish supremacy.
I'll tell you where. Look at the Wahhabi death squad. The social contract is that you can go, colonize, pillage, rape, and not only will you go to heaven for all of that, but also you will have the blessing of the empire And this is what this basically Barak, the representative of Trump, was kind of hinting to. Look at Syria. He literally said this. Look at Syria, and the whole world is opening up to it. Do you want to be left behind? Basically, he's telling the people, the Muslim people of the area, that if you choose resistance, you will be raped and killed and pillaged. That's your fate, like that of Gaza, like that of those who resisted in Syria and Iraq and Iran and Yemen. But if you come with us, jump on the ship with us of the Abrahamic shield, we will open for you the right to colonize, pillage, rape, steal, kill. That is actually the basic social contract in the whole empire. You can be black and in the United States and get on board with any mercenary group and or foreign army like the Foreign Legion of France, or get into the United States, or go into even Israel, and you also can beat and rape and pillage and take people's money from their homes, right?
The
That's
Lebanese
the
doesn't
social
want to do
contract of
that.
what colonialism is.
I know, but I don't get the sense that Lebanon wants to do that. Like, that's what I mean. Like, if you tell me, hey, if you get on board, I'll allow you to kill, murder, and maim. That is not really an appetizing pitch to me. I get it for the Wahhabi death squads who believe that stuff. Fair enough. You know,
Come to a poor guy in Tajikistan and you tell him, hey, here's a $3,000 salary a month, plus you can go rape any woman you want to. And so this is why it's important for the empire to try to destroy the Ayatollah and the Shia religious hierarchy system that has been pitching to their own populace something else. Whether you're religious or not, you don't have to be religious. You just have to understand that there's one side that's pitching a kind of Islam and is standing in the way for you to normalize the other kind of Islam, even by force. Because yes, the vast majority of Syrians, and Egyptians, and others refuse till today this kind, but they're going to get raped, as is happening every day. There's at least 30 women in Syria every day that are being kidnapped from even Sunni families, because they belong from families that have been proud sometime in their history. So you better rape it out of them. Okay? So this is how it's being done, and this is the war.
Do you really think that Syria, and this could be the last question, I'm sorry, that they're going to be able to keep Syria together, even with the relieving of sanctions, even with, I don't know, all of this talk about the world opening up to it, especially with Jelani being so over the top ass kissing to Israel? This seems like his own death squads will take issue with this.
You know, those death squads are all just propagandists. They don't really believe that God, you know, these are the riffraff.
Oh, you don't think they're true believers? You think we're doing this for the money, we're doing this for the clout?
Of course, they're high on drugs and so forth. But you see the Nazis, for instance, in the streets of the U.S. Are they the really believe in God-given? So no, they're all drug heads and so forth. Yes, they believe that they are better than others. They're supremacists, that's for sure. But are they really Christians, those Nazis? You know, do they really? Similarly, this guy is high on Captagon in the ISIS, and he's enjoying his rape and pillage ticket to freedom.
Yeah, self-interest. It's purely self-interest. Wow. Laith, this has been an illuminating conversation. Like I say, I'm always mystified sometimes by the way Lebanon is structured. And I saw that the U.S. was making this pitch to Lebanon, and I wanted to get your take on it because it seemed like they were trying to create a civil war. something that they seem to have been trying to do for years. But I think you kind of bring it home, making a point of saying, look, the Lebanese military is not going to attack Hezbollah, which is the reason why they're going to have Wahhabi death squads to effectively function as that, almost you can say, imperial arm to go after Lebanon, almost as a punishment for not accepting this kind of normalization that the United States effectively wants. I hope that is not the way that comes to pass. Lord knows I don't. But I do remember the attacks from HTS against Lebanon when they first took over Syria. So we'll see. Laith Marouf. He is an award-winning multimedia producer, media policy law consultant. You can catch him on Free Palestine TV or freepalestine.video. Both of those things are fantastic. Check him out on Twitter at Free Palestine TV. Laith, thank you for this, man. I really appreciate it.
See you soon, Jamal.
You have a good one. I'm glad you made it back safely to your space. Be safe.
Thank you.